Very warm welcome to every one of you. Thank you joining. See, a little bit lunch break still causes some effects, but I think we'll be getting a little bit more crowded right afterway. I would like to say thank you to all of you here and also to my panelists. We are talking about the role of carriers and destinations in the context of balancing volume and sustainability. I think this is a quite very interesting approach we choose, because what we're always discussing, mass tourism on the one hand side, sustainability on the other hand side, and so we thought it's quite interesting to discuss this in a context. So therefore, I'm very happy to say hello to my guest. First of all, I would like to get on the stage is Susanna Schiacovelli. She's Deputy Managing. Okay, Susanna, if you want to take place here. Okay, Deputy Managing Director, Tourism for Demand and Hospitality of Mallorca and the Council de Mallorca. We have Fabian Charbonnier, Promotional Officer, European Markets and St. Martin Tourist Office. With us will be Sebastian, if you would take the place over here. Sebastian Portes, Vice President Central Western Europe at Club Mediterranee. And we have Kevin Bupolz, Vice President, Managing Director, Continental Europe for Middle East and Africa at Norwegian Cruise Line. So, I didn't finalize, sorry. So, therefore, yes, very happy to have you with me on stage. I will sit over there and we will have a little introduction of the both islands and countrysides of your destinations. And so I would like to ask you to start the clips. Yes, very quickly, some words, Susanna, just about the clip.
Yes, I imagine that, well, first of all, thank you for the invitation from Mallorca. I guess you would have imagined a video of our beautiful island, but instead this pledge is with the concept that we're talking about today. Mallorca receives 13 million tourists and we have around 900,000 residents. And so one of our strategies, tourist strategy, is working on sustainability and specifically responsible tourism. So this is a pledge of responsible tourism, which for us is not sustainability, it's the responsibility of each individual person, and not only the tourists, but also the residents. So of course, we welcome all of the tourists, and especially the German market. But what we want to do is to let's say, educate and make sure that everybody that comes to Mallorca respects and adheres to our pledge. It's totally voluntary, so it's a voluntary pledge, and it's on an individual level, and then it's also at an institutional level. So the first institution that adhered was the UNWTO, and we have 53 municipalities in Mallorca, and around 30 of these municipalities have already adhered to it. And it's a very simple message so that anybody can understand it, but then behind it, it's based on the Agenda 2030, but behind it are specific action points that we then elaborate and develop with each one of the municipalities or institutions or airlines, carriers. We have now here in Germany, and all of the boarding cards of EasyJet, of Eurowings, Condor, we have our pledge. So this is our strategy. This is, let's say, our tourist strategy for the next, let's say, legislation that we have. And that is why you have now seen a pledge. So I would definitely invite you to go into it. It's mallorcapledge.com, and then you'll see what it represents. And this is, and then I'll explain more things about it. But
I think we will get very deep inside afterwards. So thank you for this. And we also have a little clip of St. Martin. Fabian, please.
Hello. Yes, thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure and an honor. I think it's the first time I'm doing this in 17 years of working in the tourism industry, so it's a nice exercise. We are very much concerned by our environment. That's all we have to offer. St. Martin is a small island in the Caribbean on the right-hand side of Puerto Rico, like 330 kilometers off Puerto Rico, just so those who don't know exactly where we're located. And we don't have any other industry than tourism. There's no agriculture to say. There's no industry like building goods and stuff like that. So all we have to offer is this wonderful environment that you could see in the video. And because it's I would say the only main income of our country, we have tourism education as something that is very important, and we are teaching hospitality in all different levels of education. So we have also la Réserve naturelle de France, because it's a French island. So we have a lot of rules and regulations about how to deal with pollution, with management of waste. And we also have in our government a department that deals with the implementation of new hotels, which size, where, how many stars. It's all in relation with the positioning of the island. It is not a luxury destination, but it's a really high-end destination. We are the hub to the area of St. Bart's, Anguilla, St. Martin French and Dutch side, because the island has two countries. The north is French and the south is Netherlands. So this being said, it's all a matter of dimensioning the business towards the peacefulness of the country, towards the management of urbanism. I'm thinking French and I'm translating live, so there's a little delay. Okay.
Fine.
So yes, we're very concerned about those issues, and also the quality of tourists we want instead of quantity. We are blessed to have 110 different nationalities living on the island. So that means that we are super, super open-minded. We do not import the conflicts that there are in the world, like, between Israel and Gaza, those kind of stuff. We have the people with the synagogue and the mosque that are in the same road, and we relate very much together. So environment is the only thing that we have like a resource.
I think we will come back on this also during our talk here. Thank you very much for this. So very nice clips and quite impressive. The other two colleagues, I think we will do this during speaking and during talking. But before we are starting, I would like to ask the audience to use Slido, because we also have a Slido today working with us. So as soon as you have any kind of questions, please take a scan and send over the questions. I do have my iPad here and I will follow, and if the questions are brainy, I can take them. And I will ask the colleagues over here at the panel. If you, I think it should, you should take it now because I don't know whether the Slido scan will be shown afterwards once more. So if you think could be rising some questions afterwards, just take a shot of the QR code. So, well, we heard something about the islands. There are some companies transporting the people to these islands. So, NCL, I think you should know some of those islands quite well.
We do, actually. I wouldn't call it transporting, right?
We're
taking a nice cruise, and we're seeing a lot of fantastic island destinations, like Mallorca. We're there quite a lot, and also on the Dutch side, St. Martin, right? But yeah, it's so many beautiful places in the world to see. So we're all about showing them to our guests in a responsible way.
We are also coming to responsible. Club Méditerranée, I think you are the founder of the club holidays, I guess.
Yes, indeed. The reason why we wanted to be a part of this panel actually is to share an illustration of a hospitality group which actually shifted from what you call the volume tourism to a value strategy. Fueled by the ESG stakes that you mentioned. And one of the key illustrations is what we decided, this shift we decided to do 20 years back, to go from a mass market, mid-scale operator, to now a very upscale hospitality player. So it took 80 closures of resorts. We opened only 50 ones of smaller capacity, higher standards. So we acknowledged the loss of clients, loss of volume, obviously compensated by a dramatic increase in ADR and ultimately in revenues. So it's an interesting and I think a rare example in the hospitality industry of a key player actually deciding to shift from volume to value strategy, fueled by many considerations, profitability, etc., but also by the environmental stakes.
So you explained very, very well the reason why we wanted to have this kind of panel on the stage, because I think this is something we are facing all over the industry, this shift from volume to value, whatever this means. So if I come back once more to value, I mean, the cruise shipping industry is working with huge capacities, with huge ships. Are you also focusing on value?
Yeah, Norwegian Cruise Line is very much focused on value. So we're a contemporary cruise line. So we have ships in the sizes from 2,000 to 4,000 passengers, but we are at the top of the segment. So we are really about the quality on the ship. And we built the ships a bit larger to have a lot of choice of different things you can do on board of the ships, lots of different restaurants, and not so much to have a lot of people on there necessarily. So that's also part of our responsibility approach. We have a flexible fleet of ships. Some are around 2,000 passengers, some around 4,000. And when we built the newest class of ships, we didn't go like some of our competitors to the 6,000. We went to the 3,000 in the middle, so that we have now a ship size for every destination. And we are very much about planning our itineraries. In some destinations, the guests want to have larger ships that are part of the destination itself. And in other destinations, you want to have really a smaller ship that is more flexible, can go into smaller ports. So that's also a part of the responsibility strategy that we have.
Mm-hmm. Got the first question, so appreciate if you want to ask. And I think the question exactly fits to that, what you're just mentioning, and I will come back to the islands afterwards also. Question is, how so you create balance between the wish and need to grow, sell more, build more hotels, etc., and reducing environmental impact? But I think you already gave a bit of the question, a bit of the answer to this question. So you said you're going down with the capacities. Yeah,
I mean, it's about growing responsibly. So, of course, we are growing, and we have been growing a lot, but it's also about growing on the revenue side stronger than on the capacity. So that's the focus on quality. And then it's about taking it rather in a measured way so that it's sustainable, actually.
Club Med, what does it mean? May I just add a question on this? So if you're saying you're taking the advantage of smaller clubs, does it mean it's more space for those people sitting there and having more luxus or more service, or is it also going down with the capacities in terms of sustainability aspects?
So it both actually. So we reduce the average number of beds in every single resort, again compensated by a higher ADR, higher standards. The other thing we do, because obviously like every company here, we want to grow and recruit new clients, but we decided on what we call local development strategy, which means every new resort has to be fueled by a nearby source market. So no more of these very remote resorts that require 10 hours flight. And two very interesting illustrations of that strategy was actually in China. We built a dedicated product line for China called Club Med Joyview, which are located 2 hours away from the tier 1 cities, Shanghai, Chengdu, Guangzhou, Beijing, which offers holiday destinations to those Chinese citizens, but at a very close by driving distance. And these new properties account for 50% of the growth in China, with very limited transportation impact from an environmental standpoint. And another illustration closer to us here in Europe is we have 16 properties in the Alps, French, Switzerland and Italy. We used to operate them only in the winter time, and now we decided to open almost all of them in the summertime and making summer mountain a new hit destination for our European clientele. Instead of flying to a beachfront destination, 3-6 hours flight. So now they have a drive to destinations that we call it the new exotism for Club Med. And it's actually, again, one of the biggest growth engine for our European markets. So it's this local development strategy is one of the pillars of our environmental commitments now.
You said local development strategy brings me to our destinations. Susanna, can you explain a little bit more about Pledge and what does it mean in terms of what you've just heard from the colleagues?
Yeah, I think you were saying demand, and as I said, 13 million tourists, we don't have a demand problem. If I think about 20 years ago, when I was also in the government, I was sitting down with tour operators and airlines saying, okay, so how many tourists can you bring? What marketing campaigns can we do? And now we don't do that. We're sitting down with, and would love to also sit down with Club Med and Norwegian, but we're sitting down with the tour operators and airlines to say, how can you help us communicate to your clients when they do their booking, our pledge, just so that they know that this is what we want for the island, because Mallorca is not necessarily associated to sustainability, to responsible tourism. So we need to do that with those operators that bring, the tourists to the island. So I think that's a totally different strategy. I would say that the tourism board in Mallorca has always dedicated itself to doing big marketing campaigns, and our video is this. There's no beautiful beaches because we know, and of course, especially in the German market, maybe the American market is a market where we will, which is just discovering Mallorca, but what we want to concentrate on is that. So there's a part which is to the individual tourist and also the resident, because a lot of times, and I think all destinations that have this volume issue, you also have to work with the resident, because a lot of times, and I think especially the cruise lines have had this, that you have the residents that are maybe complaining about too much tourism in the island. And we also need to work for that. That's why we say that this pledge is not only for tourists, it's also for the resident, because sometimes our German visitors are more sustainable than even the Mallorquin residents. So this is for everyone. So that's on the first side. And then from a government perspective, of course, the pledge is not enough. We need to work on infrastructures. We're working very much on the tourist offer, and also the, let's say, legal or illegal, everything that has to do with just, renting out all of the apartments. So that's another part, infrastructure. And then what we also are looking at with all of the hoteliers is the fact of our local products. So in the end, everything is circularity. You need to, promote the local economy. And that we're also doing with, you know, the hoteliers, with all of the different associations where we have, you know, what is the Mallorca local product, so that also helps the local economy, and that is not only from a food side, but also instead of buying something in a souvenir, why don't you buy the typical, you know, Mallorquín espardeña? So it's all circular economy that we need to do. And as a tourism board, this is new because this usually comes from, you know, in the Insular Council, we have, you know, environmental department, we have a tourist department, we have, and this is usually done by other departments. So you know, we're doing that now from the tourism board. So of course it has to be a whole multi, you know, dimension. You have to, but I think already just concentrating on something where we're telling people that this is what we want for the island, and then there are action plans, you know, with each one of the letters, let's say, of Mallorca that you saw in the video. So it's not, you know, this is just very quick and basic, so you get the.
But from your point of view, your experience you made, and I think all of you are here coming from the volume-driven business. There's also another question: how can this work out for the entire tourism industry in the world? Because we have more people traveling, we have more tourists. Now you are answering with you put in more value, less capacities. Where do the guests go to?
Maybe I can answer to that one. Again, we at Club Med think we have to unlock unknown destinations, close by destinations, and again, that was my example of just creating this tourism of summer mountain, which is very well known in Austria, for instance, in Switzerland, by the way, but not at all in France. And we want to unlock this. So we want to create new capacity. I mean, we want to grasp and attract new clients, but unlocking destinations that are not known for the moment, which is one of the purpose of this global strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for Mallorca, for example, it's not, the volume is evidently in the summer, you know, and not in the off-season. So that's also, let's say, a strategy. But I think we always talk about, you know, the massification of tourists or the volume, but it's also, let's say, the population. So we need to work on both aspects. But one of our strategies is not to reduce. So we're not reducing capacity. But yes, if an airline comes to us and says, you know, we want to put flights in the summer, do it. But we will collaborate if you do it in January or February, so we can extend the season. I think extending the season is something that we've been talking about for the last 30 years. It's not that easy. But it's not, you know, we don't have too much volume in January. We don't have too much volume in February. Then, of course, we need to, you know, we have talked to also the, you know, the sector, but it would be to advance the period, you know, the summer period. So it's not always that way, and we definitely are not working on reducing capacity. I also don't like to talk about quality tourists, because that means that everything that is not quality, you know, that's not it. But I think what you were saying, you know, value. But it's more everybody that comes to be, if we're all more sustainable and we take care of the island, which I can definitely tell you that, you know, there are parts of the island where that's not the case.
Yeah.
Well, we have the strategy to expand the tourism period in our country, because a lot of the people come during the end of the year, Christmas and New Year's, but then there was too much of a concentration of people. So we had a strategy to put some events, big events, at the early beginning of the season. That's like around Thanksgiving in November. So we have this festival de la gastronomie, where we have all kind of chefs from all over the world that come to St. Martin to evaluate the level of our own local chefs. And then we have the population that is involved with lessons of cuisine, and with events, with music, and it's a big popular event. So our season starts earlier and it finishes later also, because we have all kind of events like parties around boating and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, we have less tourists at the peak, but the spread is more beneficial to us. Also, it makes it easier to process all the waste, and because our industry is not huge, and we don't have enough electricity or water supply. So in order for things to get smooth, we have a wider season.
You just said that it's about the season, but it's also about, example, cruise ships. I learned St. Martin is also quite important for cruise.
It's a huge
so
port.
it's huge, even if it's coming from the Netherlands side, but you are also affected by masses of ships.
Well, on the Dutch side of St. Martin, they are more oriented towards mass tourism. The biggest ship of the world, I think, is Icon of the Sea, was there a month ago. And we have sometimes 5 to 10 cruise ships. We have 5 at the dock and 5 a little further. So it's a huge business, but it impacts everyone. For instance, just driving on the island when there's cruise ships is like crazy.
Yes, but how exactly can you answer this situation from point of view of an island? I mean, the ships are there. Huh?
Maybe by allowing the right ships to come. Basically, so our approach is a little different. For us, it's about having guests on board that are a different, like a value guest more, that wants to explore a destination, that wants to really see something. And so that's why we're also not focusing on 6,000 passenger ships, or the Icon is even bigger, right? But we come with a maybe 3,000 passenger ship, and then the guests are more about exploring the local culture, and those are also the guests, I think, that are working better in a destination and leaving something in the destination maybe as well. So we are trying to bring that kind of guests rather, and I think there are now ships for everyone, and every taste is a little different, but that would be part of our answer to the question, like what kind of guests should you bring to what destination. And there are some, I mean, you said volume is really relative to the destination, right? So there are some destinations that can handle bigger volumes and it works. And there are some destinations where you have to be careful, so that it really is the experience that people are coming for as well. And then you have to come with a smaller ship, and it works better.
Sebastian, I think you just mentioned about the clubs you opened in China. I mean, the growth, the world market growth in tourism, I think, is pretty much driven by China, by countries like China, India, or something. How do you face these developments of many people coming around over there in the Asian markets, but also coming to Europe, for example?
Again, our global strategy now aims at building new capacity close to these source markets. So that's what we are doing in China. We open 8 Joyview properties. So this product line is dedicated to China with only Chinese clients there. And they travel around this and they circulate around this portfolio. So the very first thing they do is actually discover 1, then 2, etc. We do the same in Japan. We develop capacity in Hokkaido for winter sports, fed by the Japanese market first, and then China, Hong Kong, Singapore. So all close by markets. So we really want first to develop local capacity, which reduces transportation, reduces cost for the clients, and reduces the environmental impact. Then obviously, following that, this circulation, we will try at a point of time to have them circulating from Asia to other resorts, but it's not here the main priority. We think there is enough local jewels to unlock locally in Asia. So this is what we are focusing on today.
Okay. Now, once more, St. Martin. You also looking for less guests, or how are you proceeding with your volume strategy?
Well, the Dutch side, which is the south of the island, has a policy for mass tourism and time sharing. Those kind of that's their positioning. But for the northern side of the island, which is the French side, we are trying to keep the capacity to match also the socio-cultural dimension of our people, which is to say that we work and we all take advantage of tourism at some level, but we don't want to be crowded and that we cannot use our own roads because we are overnumbered. So we welcome tourists, and so far I think the dimension is just perfect. We have a policy, for instance, we do not build buildings that are more than two floors. That already sets the pace. We have this Code de l'urbanisme, which is the style that we want for our buildings. So it's like a Creole, modern design. And we want to stay authentic and keep our culture safe. So, for instance, we have parties, but we don't have clubs. So we don't have parties all the time. And with this, we attract a kind of clientele that fits to this because they want to enjoy the quietness of the environment. It's quite preserved, thanks to the Réserve naturelle de France. So those who want to have more entertainment and more crazy vida loca, they can go to the south and have the 14 casinos and all the nightlife. And yet we are more focused on gastronomy and well-being. So it's a balance, and that's good in the island that you can have both approaches, depending on your state of mind, your age, and your mindset. So it's a solution that people could just choose left or right.
Cool. I think, Susanna, I got a question here for you specifically. I'm just searching. It's the core question is about how do you compensate Arenal moving to value? How does it work? What is the specific plan? Because in Germany most people know El Arenal. So if you just give us some statements.
Yeah. So Arenal, which is exactly in Playa de Palma, which is known in Germany for Ballermann und alles, is definitely something that we are, focusing on. Not only Playa de Palma, then we also have, Calvia, which is more for the UK market, and we actually today with the mayor of Palma, because Arenal is Llucmajor and Palma is Playa de Palma is part of Playa. There was just a presentation where we are doing different things in that area, which start from improvements of the infrastructures, which is with the European the Next Generation funds that we have. Then also let's say, more restrictive control of various activities which are done in, which we want, which are not, let's say, responsible tourism. And we will be also doing a campaign also. So we are working on that, but it of course is not something that you can. We need to work on it from an infrastructure side. We need to work it from a legislative side, and also together, let's say, with the sector. So whether it's hoteliers, whether restaurants, there are various things that we've now. For example, the pledge, we also already have it in all of the area of Playa de Palma and Arenal. The same also in Calvia, which is the Magaluf part. So we are working on that, and we're totally, I don't know who posed the question, but this is evidently something that we need to focus on, because it's not enough to just be, doing a pledge and then still having, let's say, some kind of not responsible tourism in some areas. But that doesn't mean that we don't want the tourists to continue coming to Playa de Palma and to party and everything. That's not, it's not, we want them all to continue coming. But there are certain things which we consider you shouldn't do, such as, don't throw all of the, glass bottles on the beach, or things, don't drink on the beach, or things like that. So, so it's not, you were saying limiting capacity, that's not what we're talking about, because it's also, you also need to think that it's a social problem, because a lot of times when you talk about this massification, it's because the residents are complaining about this. Sometimes the same resident that then goes to the Fontana de Trevi and is like that and likes it, but in his own island doesn't. So we also need to educate everyone. But yes, Playa de Palma, Arenal, these, let's say, historically, what we call them mature areas, because they're the first ones who started with the tourism, are the ones that we are focusing on, and we're focusing on especially from, let's say, Palma area, with different actions that we're doing, whether infrastructure, legislative, and also communication-wise.
Okay. Would like to come back once more about the topic of over-tourism. I mean, pre-pandemic, there was big discussion about Dubrovnik, Venice, all these kind of cities. Now, asking you once more about the cruise ship part of this. We heard, as I understood now, you are not focusing on getting less guests, but you're focusing on value. How can these cities facing over-tourism, because there are just too many people in the city, how can they solve these problems?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, it's basically partnership, right? It's working together. It's something that we do quite well with destinations like Mallorca. We haven't personally spoken, but we've spoken a lot between our two companies and the destination, right? And it's really about listening. It starts with listening to every destination. It's a different situation everywhere, and you have to find out what are the main pain points in the destination. Let's get real as well, like what is cruise in this, for example, and then let's find solutions and work on solutions together. So it's really things like the pledge is very good for us. We have our own program at the heart of our product that's called Sail and Sustain. So already you can see the idea behind it is being sustainable. And so we need partners in the destinations to work with and to know and understand what's important for this destination, what kind of guests do you need, how should we do it. Dubrovnik is a good example where when we started working together, we found solutions on limiting the number of ships in a smart way. Similar actually in Mallorca as well. We limited the number of ship calls as well and spread it out a little bit more across the week to not have it all come on the weekends and things like that. So there are solutions you can find, and then some of the things are just a bit of a myth as well. If you look at Venice with like pre-pandemic 30 million guests and 2 million cruisers, so you can already see cruise can't have been the problem that it was maybe made. But of course, yeah, if the cruise guests are predominantly at the same sightseeing spots, then maybe it looks bigger and it looks more like they are the root of the problem. So then we do things like we have a new shore excursions that are called Go Local, which are actually on purpose not taking the tourists to the sites that everybody does, but rather something really interesting locally to get a glimpse of the culture, right? Like on Mallorca, we take them to the villages, to some of the artists in the, and actually have them watch like how the artists are doing their art and things like that. And that's actually very interesting and enriching for the guests as well. So if you partner and work together in a clever way, I think then we can definitely improve and have a win-win scenario here.
I think, as Club Med also mentioned, the local relationship to the people in the surrounding and stuff. This is also part you are focusing on.
Yes, our corporate program is called Happy to Care, and we have three basically cluster: environmental protection, sharing local value locally, and then social development of our team. So on this pillar of sharing value locally, I mean, the main commitments are around helping local farming. So we are partnering with NGO AgriSud, and we open every year one new project. So we basically fund local farmers, help developing their production, to be sold obviously outside, but also inside of Club Med, and that's one of the major commitments and major successes, because it's really anchor Club Med into the local community. Obviously, we hire a lot of the local people here, but we also help developing the local agriculture. Then obviously it makes a very short local supply, which also has a positive impact from an environmental standpoint. So that's one of the key commitments as part of this sharing the local value.
Great, thank you very much. So time is rising, and so therefore I would like to ask you just a very quick final round. Susanna, if you could start, I will ask you everyone the same question. What is your vision for the future of sustainable tourism, and how do your initiatives contribute to realizing this vision? So you showed us a little clip, but in your words.
Yeah, so I think the vision for us is responsible tourism, and responsible tourism actually comes from the Cape Town Declaration. And the definition for responsible tourism is that tourism which makes beautiful destinations to live in and at the same time to visit. So I think sustainable tourism is that tourism where the tourists are having a great time in the island of Mallorca, but the residents are not complaining because we have too many tourists, and that everybody lives together. I think sustainable tourism for us is what we say convivencia, coexistence, and that can only be done through collaboration with the public and private sector, and it can only be done by protecting the climate, because in the end we're an island. For me, the most beautiful island. Each one is in the Mediterranean, so we don't compete. In the Mediterranean, exactly, in the Mediterranean. But you know, we are an island and we need to protect it, and that's why we actually, the end of our pledge, you'll see that it says the island of tomorrow, because in the end, what we understand is that this is for our future generations. You know, this is for the tomorrow. It's for, you know, our children, and that's we need to protect the island. It's a small island, and it's evident that 13 million tourists, 900,000 residents, if we don't take care of the climate, of our product, of our nature, of everything that we have in the island, then we won't be able to enjoy it for the future. That's why for us it really is responsible tourism and the island of tomorrow.
Great. So which is the nicest island in the Caribbean?
Well, she said it all, because I was about to speak about what we're transmitting to our children, next generations. All our businesses and industry is ours today, but we don't go to the grave with it. We have to transmit something as values, and also this business for our island is a main sector of activity. So we have to take care of it and transmit it to the next generation in a way that will be sustainable for them and the generations to come. With time, we will find the balance. It's always between the profit interest and also the culture and the environment. So somewhere in the middle, we have to set this cursor so that it could keep on bringing value to our population and still being of interest to other people in the world to come and visit it, because we need them. But too much will just spoil the pot. So it's just a matter of balance, and once we find it in time, we will find it in time, then we know that we want so much and no further.
Thank you. Sebastian, what's your vision?
Our vision is obviously to keep pursuing this value strategy over volume, unlock local jewels, and tie ourselves with the very demanding international certifications, BREEAM when it comes to construction, Green Globe when it comes to operations. So we don't open if we don't have local source markets, and if we cannot comply with these certifications. So that's basically the commitment and the vision for Club Med.
Thank you. And then Sale. Kevin.
And a lot of things have already been said and are quite similar. We share that. For us, I would say it's growing responsibly, and it's summed up in our program called Sail and Sustain. So it's always on our mind. We want to offer a very nice vacation. We are conscious we're sometimes going to destinations where the only income is the tourism as well. So sustain is very much a part of it, and that is an ongoing journey, right? There are a lot of challenges. For us, it's also the commitment to net zero by 2050. Now we have to take concrete steps every year to get there. So that's keeping us very busy. And I think we're all on a good journey together. The main thing is partnering and making sure we understand each other, and then we can be very responsibly and growing together.
Thank you very much. Thank you to my panelists. Thank you to the audience. And yes, I would say have a nice further days at the ITB. Thank you.